Right now, even after a good dinner and 8 hours of sleep, your body is making almost no growth hormone. It is not because you are aging, it is because of when you last ate. Quick note first, this is educational only, not medical advice. Always check with your own doctor before changing anything. You wake up tired, energy crashes by late morning, your middle keeps growing no matter what. You have been told it is just your age. That is the part that is wrong. There is a real reason, and it is more reversible than almost anything your doctor mentioned this decade. The hidden villain is not sugar, it is not carbs, it is not processed food. The hidden villain is one hormone kept switched on almost around the clock: insulin. Insulin is meant to be a short delivery signal. Show up, do the job, leave. It does not hurt you when it leaves. It hurts you when it never fully drops. And for most people, it never fully drops. The reason is timing, not willpower. The gap between your last bite at night and your first the next day has shrunk for decades. Bigger portions, more snacks. Late night eating. The food world quietly engineered constant nibbling. Here's the simple picture. Every time you eat, your pancreas releases insulin to handle the rise. Small snacks count, fruit counts, even healthy bites between meals raise insulin. Insulin's job is to push glucose into cells and tell fat cells to lock their doors. Picture insulin as a factory manager walking the floor, telling every worker to lock the warehouse. While the manager is on the floor, nothing leaves storage. No stored energy comes out. The moment insulin drops to baseline, the manager leaves. The warehouse doors swing open. Now your body can finally pull energy from stored fat. That is the goal. But if you eat every 2 or 3 hours from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., the manager never leaves. Those warehouse doors stay locked 16 or 17 hours a day. You burn only what just arrived. You never touch what is stored. That is the trap. And the way out is time. So let us walk hour by hour through what happens when you do not eat again until noon. This is a 16-hour fast. Researchers call it time-restricted eating, meals inside a set window. The leading research comes from the Salk Institute, where Sachin Panda has studied meal timing for over a decade. A 2019 review in the New England Journal of Medicine backs it up. These are not fringe people. Stage 1. Call it the delivery rush. The first 2 to 3 hours after your last meal, your gut breaks food into glucose, amino acids, and fats. Blood sugar rises, insulin spikes. A big carb-heavy dinner can drive insulin 10 to 20 times above its resting level. Your liver packs extra glucose into glycogen, like compressing a file into tidy storage. The liver holds about 100 grams. Your muscles hold 300 to 500 more. You fill those tanks. You feel satisfied, maybe a little sleepy, as blood flow shifts toward your gut. Here is what few people know. While insulin is high, growth hormone cannot pulse. Growth hormone builds muscle, burns fat, and supports bone. It is released mostly in deep sleep. Eat at 8 or 9 at night and you cut into the start of that nightly repair window. Night by night, it is small. Across a decade, it adds up to real losses in repair and metabolism. Stage 2. The night shift begins. Hours 3 through 7 after your meal. Insulin is falling toward baseline. Your liver slips into quiet maintenance mode. It slowly trickles stored glucose out to keep your blood sugar steady while you sleep. A hormone called glucagon opens those storage tanks. It is insulin's opposite. Now you run on what you stored earlier, like a kitchen switching to the freezer after close. You eat a reasonable dinner. You sleep. You feel fine. Yet something quiet is happening inside. Right now your body is making almost no growth hormone. Not because you are aging, because of when you last ate. And there is one hormone your doctor probably has not talked about that quietly stays switched on all day. More on that soon. The invisible villain is not sugar, not carbs, not processed food. The villain is chronically elevated insulin, a hormone that never fully drops. Insulin is meant to be a short delivery signal. It does its job, then leaves. The harm comes only when it never leaves. The reason it never drops is timing. The gap between your last meal at night and your first meal next morning has been shrinking for decades. Your pancreas releases insulin every time blood glucose rises. That happens with every meal, every snack, even fruit, even healthy nibbles between meals. Insulin shuttles glucose into your cells, and it tells your fat cells to stop releasing stored energy. That second job matters most. Picture insulin as a factory manager walking the floor, telling every storage worker to lock the warehouse doors. While he is there, nothing leaves. The moment the manager leaves, when insulin drops to baseline, the warehouse doors open, and your body can finally pull energy from stored fat. But if you eat every 2 or 3 hours from morning to night, the doors stay locked 16 hours a day. You never touch what is stored. That is the trap, and the way out is not willpower, it is time. Let me walk you through what happens hour by hour. If this is already helping, a quiet tap on like helps Hank reach others your age. No selling here, ever. Let us keep going. Quick note before we continue. This is educational only, not medical advice. Always talk to your own doctor before changing how or when you eat. This 16-hour fast is the version researchers call time-restricted eating, simply confining your meals to a defined window each day. The leading work comes from the Salk Institute, where circadian biologist Sachin Panda has studied meal timing for over a decade. These are credible researchers. Stage 1, the delivery rush. The first 2 to 3 hours after dinner, food becomes glucose, blood sugar rises, and insulin spikes in response. A large carb-heavy dinner can drive insulin 10 or 20 times above its fasting baseline. Your liver starts packing glucose away as glycogen. Glycogen is glucose compressed into compact storage, like zipping a file. The liver holds about 100 grams, your muscles 300 to 500 more. You feel satisfied, maybe sleepy. That is partly tryptophan in your food and blood flow shifting toward your gut. Your brain is in no danger. But while insulin is high, growth hormone cannot pulse. Insulin is one of its main suppressors, and growth hormone repairs muscle and burns fat. Eat at 8 or 9 in the evening and you cut into the first part of your nighttime repair window. Over years, that quietly adds up. Stage 2, the night shift. Hours 3 through 7, around 11 at night to 3 in the morning. Insulin is falling toward baseline. Your liver shifts to maintenance, slowly trickling glucose from its stores to keep blood sugar steady while you sleep, guided by glucagon. Insulin's opposite. This is like a restaurant closing the kitchen and switching to the freezer. The fresh deliveries are done. Now you work through stored inventory. Your brain is only 2% of your weight but uses about 20% of your energy, running almost entirely on glucose during this stage. While you dream, your liver quietly supplies that glucose all night. This system evolved over millions of years. It is not fragile. The idea that you need breakfast the instant you wake to protect your brain is not physiology. It is marketing. We will come back to that. Around hour 5 or 6, insulin has dropped enough that fat cells begin releasing stored fatty acids. The warehouse doors are cracking open. An enzyme called hormone-sensitive lipase wakes up inside your fat cells and breaks stored fat apart. Insulin had been keeping it quiet. Those fatty acids travel to muscles and organs that burn them for fuel. This is lipase 4-analtopase fat breakdown, beginning while you sleep deeply, unaware. Stage 3, the warehouse empties. Hours 7 through 12, roughly 3 to 7 in the morning. Liver glycogen stores are running low. As liver glycogen drops, the liver shifts into active fat burning, pulling fatty acids from your blood and doing something remarkable with them. It turns them into ketone bodies, beta-hydroxybutyrate and acetoacetate. These can cross into the brain and serve your neurons as a second fuel. This is the metabolic switch. Panda and neuroscientist Mark Mattson call it one of the most underappreciated parts of human physiology. For most of human history, this switch flipped often. Food was episodic. People did not eat around the clock the way we do now. Today, many people go years without ever flipping it, because they never fast long enough for liver glycogen to fall and ketones to form. And there is one number your doctor probably has not checked that tracks all of this. Hold that thought, we reach it soon. When the switch never flips, the machinery rusts. Mitochondria, the tiny engines inside your cells, become less flexible when they only ever burn glucose. Researchers at the National Institute on Aging linked regular metabolic switching to better insulin sensitivity, lower blood pressure, and calmer inflammation markers. Metabolic flexibility means shifting fuel sources smoothly. Most people over 50 have lost much of it without ever knowing it happened. Take Margaret, 68. Here, just as an example. She feels it as a late morning energy crash, foggy thinking before lunch, and stubborn weight. Here's the one picture to hold on to. Insulin is a factory manager who walks the floor and locks every storage door behind him. While the manager is on the floor, nothing leaves storage. Eat every 2 to 3 hours, and those doors stay locked all day. The moment insulin finally drops, the manager leaves. The doors crack open, and your body can pull energy from stored fat at last. Around the 12-hour mark, something stranger begins. A cleaning crew arrives inside your cells, a process scientists call autophagy. The word means self-eating. Your cells digest their own damaged parts, worn-out mitochondria and misfolded proteins, breaking them down into reusable raw material. This is not destruction, this is renovation. The maintenance team that finally gets access to the building once everyone has gone home. Stay with me, because why this only switches on when you stop eating is the part that changes everything. A switch called mTOR controls it. Protein, carbohydrate, and insulin keep mTOR switched on. And while it's on, the cleaning crew stays home. Fast long enough, and insulin, glucose, and amino acids all fall, mTOR quiets down, and autophagy finally shifts into a higher gear. This isn't fringe science. Yoshinori Osumi won the Nobel Prize in Medicine in 2016 for uncovering exactly how the cellular self-cleaning works. Research in the journal Autophagy has measured real increases in these cleanup markers in human blood right around the 16-hour fasting mark. When this cleanup stalls, damaged proteins pile up in the brain. That buildup links to the plaques studied in memory disease, an area researchers are watching closely. Now the part you were never told. The idea that breakfast is the most important meal of the day? Where did that actually come from? In the early 1900s, John Harvey Kellogg, the Cornflakes Kellogg, championed breakfast as health, partly for his beliefs and partly because he sold it. For a century, food makers amplified the message until it became printed on the box truth, absorbed even by mainstream medicine on thin evidence. In 2019, the British Medical Journal reviewed 13 randomized trials and found no consistent evidence that breakfast aids weight loss or metabolic health in adults. In some studies, people who skipped breakfast simply ate fewer total calories across the day, without making up for it later on. Meanwhile, in the final stretch of the fast, growth hormone is surging, the very hormone that builds muscle and burns fat. Studies in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism report growth hormone rising up to 1,300% in men during a 24-hour fast. That surge does two things over 50. It pushes fat tissue to release stored energy, and it protects your lean muscle during the fast itself. This is where Margaret, 68, an everyday example, worried most. Won't skipping breakfast make me lose the muscle I'm trying so hard to keep? The research reassures her. A review in Obesity Reviews found time-restricted eating preserved lean mass far better than steady calorie cutting at the same deficit. And instead of fog, many feel sharper. Norepinephrine rises during the fast, lifting alertness right through those late morning hours. Ketones help too. Beta-hydroxybutyrate is a cleaner burning fuel, and studies link mild ketosis to better working memory and attention in adults over 40. Fasting also raises BDNF, a repair signal for brain tissue. Mark Mattson at the National Institute on Aging called fasting one of its most reliable triggers. And there's one lab number behind all of this that your doctor probably hasn't checked. More on that very soon. Quick reminder, this is education, not medical advice. Before the protocol, let's settle the cortisol worry, because this is where the online debate about morning fasting usually goes sideways and confuses people. Your morning cortisol peak is normal and calibrated, there to wake you and mobilize energy. It is not the damaging spike of chronic psychological stress, which is a different thing entirely. There's a quiet gut story too. Your intestines have their own nervous system, over 100 million neurons, a second brain that genuinely needs rest between meals. During fasting, a wave called the migrating motor complex sweeps the small intestine every 90 minutes. The housekeeper that clears out debris and stray bacteria, grazing all day, shuts that wave off. Over time, it's linked to bacterial overgrowth, bloating, and gas. If symptoms persist, that's a reason to see your doctor. Now, why this matters more after 50. Insulin sensitivity naturally drifts downward with age, nudged along by less movement, shifting muscle, and years of constant snacking. It becomes a slow-motion spiral. Cells respond less. The pancreas makes more insulin. Fat burning falls. Weight creeps up. And sensitivity drops again. It feels like simply getting older. But timing can interrupt it. Every organ runs on a 24-hour clock, and your insulin sensitivity is highest in the morning, fading steadily through the evening. The Weizmann Institute found the same meal eaten at 9 in the morning produced a far smaller glucose spike than at 9 at night in the same person the same day. In Cell Metabolism in 2019, Satch and Panda's lab showed adults who squeezed eating into a 10-hour window ate less on their own and improved insulin, blood pressure, and cholesterol. At the University of Alabama, men with prediabetes eating within a 6-hour window with no calorie cut, saw fasting insulin fall 3 times as much as the control group. So here is the protocol I've been building toward. I call it the noon reset, and it stands for 3 simple levers: narrow, optimize, and offset. Let's take them one at a time. Narrow is first. Compress eating to 8 hours or fewer, starting no earlier than noon. First meal at 12, last meal by 8. A true 16-hour fast as your minimum. The common mistake, counting from when you stop eating, then eating at 9 because it's been 12 hours. The biology doesn't run on a technicality, and 12 is not 16. Optimize is second, and it comes down to protein. Stuart Phillips's lab at McMaster shows protein is the single most important variable for keeping muscle past 50. Aim for at least 1.2 grams per kilogram daily, spread across your meals. For an 80-kilo person, that's about 96 grams, split between your noon and evening plates, not crammed into one. So here is the payoff, the protocol I have been building toward. I call it the noon reset, and it stands for 3 simple words: narrow, optimize, and offset. Narrow comes first. It simply means compressing your eating window to 8 hours or fewer, and not starting that window any earlier than noon. In practice, your first meal lands at noon, your last meal no later than 8 in the evening. That 16-hour gap is the threshold where the real metabolic switching kicks in. Now, I want to warn you about the most common mistake people make right here, because it quietly cancels most of the benefit you are working for. People count the fast from when they stop eating at night, then feel justified eating at 9 in the morning because technically it has been 12 hours. But 12 hours is not 16. The biology is not running on a technicality. Your liver glycogen has to actually deplete before the deeper repair work begins. Optimize is the second component. This is about the quality of what you eat inside that window, and it comes down to one number that matters most: your protein. Research on muscle and aging, especially work from Stuart Phillips at McMaster University, points to protein as the single most important variable for keeping lean mass after 50. The target that emerges is a minimum of about 1 2/10 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight each day, spread across your meals, not crammed into one. For someone around 80 kilograms, that is roughly 96 grams of protein split sensibly between your noon meal and your evening meal so your body has a steady supply. Spreading it matters. Your muscles can only use so much protein at once for repair, so 2 solid servings beat 1 giant plate at the end of the day. That is roughly double what most older adults actually eat according to National Nutrition Survey data. Most people are quietly underfueling the very muscle they are trying to protect. Fast until noon without hitting that protein, and you get all the hormonal signals to build muscle, but none of the raw material your body needs to actually act on them. Offset is the third component, and it is the one most people skip. It means adding a brief burst of gentle movement in the hour before you break your fast. This does not need to be hard. A 20-minute walk, a few gentle body weight moves, anything that lifts your heart rate modestly will do the job beautifully. Remember Margaret, 68, from earlier? This was the piece that changed her late mornings. A short walk before lunch, and the brain fog she had blamed on age began to lift. Let me show you why that little walk matters so much. Because the mechanism underneath it is precise and genuinely clever. Exercise in the fasted state moves glucose entry channels, called GLUT4 transporters, up to the surface of your muscle cells. The doors that let sugar in swing wide open. Then, when you eat, your muscles soak up that glucose far more efficiently. One study in the Journal of Applied Physiology found about 30% better uptake after a short fasted bout of exercise. So do not treat that movement as optional. Skip it on busy mornings and you lose the final priming step that makes all the insulin sensitivity gains from fasting truly pay off. 3 components. Then, a specific window, a specific protein number, a specific movement, narrow, optimize, offset. Each one exists because the biology, stage by stage, points right to it. Now, fairness. This is not for everyone, and I will not pretend otherwise. There are real situations where fasting until noon could do more harm than good. Anyone with a history of disordered eating should not try time restriction without guidance. And if you are pregnant or breastfeeding, this is simply not the time to narrow your eating window. And this one is critical. If you take certain diabetes medications, especially insulin, a long fast can drop your blood sugar dangerously low. Please talk to your doctor before changing anything. And if you are already underweight, do not restrict your eating in any form without medical oversight. These are not legal disclaimers. They are real categories where this could hurt you. There is also an honest debate. Are the benefits about the fasted state itself or just eating fewer calories? The most truthful answer is probably both, working together, which means the window you compress still has to hold real nutrition. 16 hours of fasting followed by 6 hours of poor choices will not give you the results you are hoping for. And the question I hear most, what about the hunger? In week 1, yes, the late morning can feel uncomfortable because ghrelin, your hunger hormone, is partly a trained habit, but ghrelin adapts fast. Research shows the pattern shifts within 1 to 2 weeks of a steady new schedule. The hunger that feels unbearable on day 3 is genuinely smaller by day 10. So take a breath. None of this is about deprivation or willpower. It is about giving your body the quiet hours it evolved to expect. Margaret kept it simple. First meal at noon, enough protein, a short walk before lunch. Weeks later, the late morning crashes she had accepted as aging had quietly faded. If you remember only one thing, make it this: push your first meal toward noon. That single change unlocks most of the cascade we walked through today. And the reminder I always come back to, this is educational only, not medical advice. Talk with your own healthcare professional before changing your eating, your habits, or any medication. And if you ever feel faint, shaky, confused, or your heart races when you try this, stop and see a doctor. Those are signals to take seriously, not to push through. If you are starting the noon reset this week, leave a comment that just says noon so I can see who is actually doing this alongside you. And if you want the other half of this, what to actually eat inside those 8 hours to feed the repair and protect your muscle, subscribe, because that is where we go next. Remember how we began? Almost no growth hormone, an engine running flooded. Now you know it was never your age. It was timing. And timing is something you can change, starting tomorrow at noon.